Welcome to the Beam, where curiosity stirs conversation, taking us a step further into the future we desire. I'm Sunas Nathaniel, and as always, we bring you the issues that matter, the voices that challenge, and the insights that inspire. Today, we have a trending issue at hand. So much has been said about this issue, but here, we will be looking at it through the lens of youth. We will be discussing USAID, Boko Haram, loans, and the future of Nigerian youth. It promises to be a very engaging conversation. But before we get right into it, let us first bring you your quick tech update. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Hello and welcome. Here's your quick tech update for the week. The Director General of the National Information Technology Development Agency, Kashifu Inuwa, has said that the federal government's collaboration with the tech giant Google is poised to position Nigeria as the global technological hub. In a recent statement, he revealed that the partnership is centered on 5 key areas: infrastructure development, scaling digital skills among citizens, fostering AI innovation, promoting cloud adoption, and establishing a robust investment framework which would reposition the nation. Meantime, the federal government, in partnership with the International Labour Organization, has launched a national child labour website and a reporting app aimed at tackling child labour in the country. Authorities say that the platform is designed to enhance accountability, coordination, and rapid intervention in child labour cases nationwide. On the foreign scene, Elon Musk artificial intelligence startup XAI is set to release the Grok 3 chatbot on Monday. The billionaire claiming it would be called the smartest AI on Earth. The product will debut a live demonstration today at 8 p.m. Pacific time, Musk announced on X. Meanwhile, U.S. President Donald Trump has signed an executive order creating a national agency dominance council that will be tasked with helping meet the vast electric power needs to win the AI race with China. Trump told reporters that the U.S. will be energy dominant like nobody else, adding that more electricity will be produced for all AI plants. And finally, Saudi company will invest $5 billion to build an artificial intelligence data center in the futuristic city of Neom. The agreement signed between DataVolt and Neom would fund the creation of a fully sustainable AI data center with a 1.5 gigawatt capacity. Now that's your quick tech update for this week. Stay tuned for more cutting-edge news from the ever-evolving world of technology. Enjoy the rest of the program. Welcome back. Now let's get right into the discussion. The recent dismantling of the U.S. Agency for International Development, USAID, by President Trump has sent shockwaves through nations and on its aid, particularly Nigeria. This decision comes at a critical time when the country is still battling insurgency and facing economic challenges that directly impact the future of its youth. With the federal government now turning to loans to offset the shortfall from the U.S. aid cuts, we must ask, what does this mean for Nigeria's security, economy, and its young population? Joining me to navigate this complex conversation right now is Mr. Anyekeme Fimba, a broadcast journalist, consultant, and professional speaker. Also joining us via Zoom from Port Harcourt is Mr. Wikina Ebenezer, founder of the Policy Shaper, a civics tech organization that empowers young people with knowledge, skills, and tools to engage with public policy. Gentlemen, you're welcome to the Beam.
It's amazing. Great to be here. Sunas, good to see you. You're looking exceptionally good.
Thank you very much. You're welcome. Yeah. All right. Let's begin with you, Mr. Anyekeme. Let's ask you this question. The termination of the USAID operation has left, significant void in Nigeria's development sector. And the question becomes, how do you assess the immediate impact, the withdrawal of this program, in combating Boko Haram, supporting affected communities? What are the profound implications, especially for the youth? And then some people say that question has to be asked. Is it true that Nigeria does not need foreign aid today?
This is not a very simple question to answer if one must be indeed very careful considering all factors. It's a very critical question, but it's a question that faces us at this point in time in our nation's history. This country, Nathaniel, this country, Sunas, is on life support. We have to understand that. And our country is surviving on chips. One of such being foreign aid, and the other leg being loans and other foreign funding that is keeping some critical areas of our national life on, like healthcare, like education, poverty alleviation, and of course keeping life going in war-torn areas, particularly where we have terrorism activities in the northeast and all of that. And so with the coming in of President Donald Trump, and of course the dismantling of a USAID, the issues have come to the face. The truth is that if foreign aid is unplugged directly of our nostrils now, there will be devastating consequences. We can actually survive without foreign aid. But at this point in time, we have never acted like a people who are ready to live off it. We have inadvertently over-enjoyed foreign aid for a very long period. And that has actually had a toll on us. We have not acted like people who are a sovereign nation, who are independent, who ought to be funding critical sectors of our national life. And again, we must face the big elephant in the room. We lose every year more than $81 billion to corruption in this country, Sunes. And that is where the problem is. That is the problem. Nigeria is not a poor country, but we have not utilized our resources meaningfully. And that's why we continue to rely on foreign aid. But we have to address these issues now. Will it have devastating consequences? The answer is yes. Is there something we can do about it? The answer is also yes. We have to look inwards. We have to improve our critical infrastructure. We have to look out for the gaps that exist, especially in the health sector, managing terminal diseases, managing HIV/AIDS, managing out-of-school children, managing the internally displaced persons camp, and the rest of the other gaps that were actually covered up through this foreign aid. It's not easy to answer this question, but I tell you, Nigeria needs a gradual step down. We cannot completely get off the foreign aid at the moment, but we need to think about it because the issue has come to us and things will never be the same again.
All right. Coming to you, Mr. Wikina. Thank you very much, Nekeme, for that nice insight. Coming to you, Mr. Wikina, the Nigerian government, has approved additional millions, to see how they can help, push what is happening within the sector. And the question for me would be, these monies that we are gathering, all these things we are trying to use all the loans for, what is the long-term effect when it comes to the youths? This relying on the funds that are coming from, aid and from some of these loans. What is the effect? What effect will it have, on the youth population? And what can we do, to stem the tide as we speak?
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you so much, Sunes. I mean, it's obvious that the burden of the loans will be paid by my generation, right? Those of us who are in our 20s and 30s, in the next 20, 30 years, those of us who are going to get into leadership, we definitely have to deal with these things. And I think that it's sad, just as Mr. Nyekeme said, I think it's sad that over the years, we sort of had gotten so used to, these foreign dollars and euros and pounds, and have taken our own budgets to spend on areas that are not giving us development indices. A good example is, the health budget, just before the USAID pullout. We are investing, less than 5% of our national budget for 2025 on healthcare. So it means that if USAID didn't really pull out, we wouldn't really go to source for loans now to be able to meet up this current health expenditure. I also do think that, if you look at things like the Abuja Declaration, UNESCO itself also recommends that developing countries invest between 15 to 20% of their national budget on education to bolster and support human capital development. There are many of these things. For example, the Abuja Declaration, right? Abuja Declaration has our name in it, but we haven't been able to, as a country, invest up to 10% of our budget in healthcare. How is it possible to grow if we don't do that? GSK, I think it was last year or 2 years ago, GSK left. A couple more health organizations and companies are also struggling to keep their businesses afloat. So even in the private sector, we're not even having the value chains to support the domestic manufacturing of drugs and those health products that we need to meet our health demands in country. So I feel like I think it's a moment of truth for us. Is a dawning moment. Things have dawned on us that the world will never be the same. As the world gets more and more right wing, there'll be a lot more of this kind of changes. Who knows what other agency is going to change in a couple of years? And so it's important that at the federal, at the state level, and also at the local government level, local governments will still start receiving their allocation directly. How have they planned to invest in healthcare? The primary healthcare agencies in their respective local government areas, how are they going to invest in infrastructure and also in ensuring that we also meet the demand and skills required to take care of the people? And then I think the private sector investment also is very, very key as well. Yeah.
Wow, that's very food for thought. It's something that we need to start thinking about, like you've said. Let me go back to Mr. Nyekem. I'm thinking beyond, immediate financial gaps of this USAID exits. It also means the loss of technical expertise and capacity building. And what strategies then should Nigeria adopt to build local capacity and ensure that continuity in development programs? What should be done?
At the moment, as soon as Nigeria accounts for I'd say the world's largest chunk of raw talents. We're not short of talents. We're not short of brilliant people. Imagine the quantity of people we every day we export to other countries, holding down the American healthcare system, doing well in Europe, doing well in Canada. We have a vast, very fantastic base, intellectual base, but we're not investing in that base. Now that we have funding gaps, now that we have obvious gaps within the healthcare system, within the educational system, reality is facing us because we have not been, we've not been intentional about good governance. And I like to go back to the fundamentals. Take corruption, for instance. Corruption continues to rip off the nation. And everyone thinks that they can have a safe way out. Okay, I can get my immediate family out to a safe country. I can isolate myself. And I also think that Nigerians don't really hate corruption. A vast majority of Nigerians don't hate corruption that much. The only thing we hate is maybe the fact that it is not yet our turn. So you see, we make a lot of realistic postulations in our expectations, even from our political leaders. You hear there is an occasion, and sometimes involving a religious organization, and a public official is the chairman on the occasion for a 2 billion naira fundraising, and he's expected to make tremendous good funding. He's expected to give big amounts of money. From which budget? From which allocation? And everybody claps, and we think that this is, the abnormal has become the normal. It has a way of telling off. So what do we do to that huge gap that we have, the huge capacity gap? The government has to invest in its people. We have to invest in education. We have to invest in research. We have to invest in our educational institutions, in our tertiary institutions. We have to get our universities back. Our graduates should be employable. We should get skills back. We can't be operating in 1980 curriculum in a 2025 economy. We can't continue to allow the same manual that we taught in the 90s, even in the early 2000s, to continue to be used in educational institutions. It calls for a major overhaul because this skills gap that we are talking about, okay, let's take, for instance, the people that were used by USAID, and they're not largely Nigerians. Why weren't they employed in our individual agencies? Because of the evil we call the Nigerian factor. Unemployment gaps, gaps within every day we are losing doctors. How many more are we recruiting? Every day we are losing nurses. How many more are we recruiting? And so there is a huge gap within that space. So you see the country continues to suffer from what looks like a schoolboy solution. Everyone seems to have the solution to the problem. But what is the political will to implement this problem? How are the citizens holding leadership accountable? Unfortunately, Sunes, let me tell you the truth. We have a youthful population that is largely distracted. A youthful population that is not keeping tabs on national issues. The only thing that excites millennials and Gen Z are entertainment and gossip and comedy. We cannot go like that. The eternal rule for democracy is vigilance. Because these issues are not on the top burners, leaders know that they can escape and go away with it. Because these issues are not discussed. Nigerians are interested in which actress got pregnant for which national personality. These are the things that dominate the blogs, and even newspapers, fall for it. Until we begin to, for instance, USAID has pulled out 28,000 people about to be unemployed.
Mr. Dekema, we're going to stop you there. Let's just stop you there. The conversation is far from over. But we're going to be taking a break, and when we return, we'll continue exploring, that gap between what is really important to the Nigerian people and what they should be focusing on right now to ensure that these lapses will not take us down the drain further. Let me begin this time around with Mr. Wikina. Let's discuss. Currently, the government has borrowed at least 20.1 trillion, right? And then I want you to go into how can we make sure that this long-term thing is not going to affect the youth right now. And then you also have to discuss how the civil society can help stem this vacuum, close this vacuum and let people be able to still cope in the absence of this aid that we are talking about, which is not present anymore? What do you have to say to that?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sones. Just before I go quickly into that, just shortly, I just wanted to respond to what Mr. Niekeme said about young people's engagement, especially engagement with the civic in the civic space. And I think that that's some of the work we've been trying to do at Policy Shapers over the past 5 years. We've been and this is not just something Policy Shapers has done alone. There's so many other civic organizations, whether it's the Budget or Yaga or Connected Development, who have been doing a lot of work to engage young people. So to a large extent, I don't agree that young people are not connected. There's still so much work to be done to connect young people to the national issues and things that happen in our national polity. Young people led and SAS. The reason why we had a high turnout during the past elections, because it was mostly young people who drove most of that engagement. The wins we've gotten with the Reform IELTS campaign, that's been led by young people as well. So youth are increasingly, I think, getting more engaged. I think the decision makers need to also meet the young people halfway. Young people ask questions and do not get answers to these questions. We have television programs that happen every day, people making comments and asking questions. It took one year plus for the current administration to do a media chat. And it was a media chat that was just for journalists in a particular room in the State House. How is the president and how are the governors in the respective states even willing to open up the mic for young people to come and engage and ask questions directly to them via social media, So I just wanted to address that quickly because I feel like there's a growing notion that youth are not wanting to engage. I feel they are engaging, but they actually need to be met halfway. So on the issue of the loans, right? I feel that this is an issue that's gone on for quite a long time. We keep hearing about borrowing every year. Like I said in my previous comments, I think that is a sad thing that all of this borrowing is being pushed towards the future because it's going to be the youth population that who become the adults in the future who would have to pay up all of these loans, right? All of these loans have to be paid at some point. If we're not lucky to get, smart, intelligent leaders, but that's like Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala and co, who were able to negotiate for $18 billion to be forgiven in the Paris Club. Debts. If we're not able to get those kind of people in the future, we probably will have to struggle for a long time to pay up all of these loans. So I think that the issue I've always had has always been stewardship. It's never been the loan. Borrowing in its sense, in the theoretical sense of borrowing, is not bad. Mm-hmm. America borrows, Japan borrows, Singapore borrows, everybody borrows, right? But how do you ensure that when the borrowing happens, there's enough stewardship to be able to meet up and ensure that we deliver on what we borrowed the money for? How do we also communicate to the citizenry that this money that we took for XYZ thing, this is the results? I think that's where the Nigerian government has been lacking for so many years. We borrow and we don't account for what it is. I mean, it's the same thing with the tax conversation now. Conversation around tax and VAT. How are we even showing stewardship around this thing? So I think that at the state level and the national level, there needs to be an improved attitude towards stewardship, showing that when this money is collected, it actually gets accounted for. And when this borrowing happens, we can actually see it. It's not something that we just say, okay, we borrowed for XYZ, but we can see the results of what we're borrowing money for. So that's my thoughts on that.
All right, I want to add to you just one more minute. Just tell us, you're a policy shaper. What policy reforms are you looking at that can help us within these times? I mean, before I go back to Mr. Niekeme, go ahead.
I think the biggest policy reform that we need right now is spending on development priority areas. And Mr. Niekeme had mentioned them very, very well. Education, healthcare, we talked about job creation, industry development. Those are the things that we should be seeing taking the largest chunk of our budget, not renovating the National Assembly roof with 10 billion or spending money on things that don't really bring direct development benefit to the country. So I don't think we need a new policy. I think we just need to redirect our mindset and redirect our current expenditure towards development growth areas. And I think that the president needs to call there's the Federal Executive Council, but it's also the council where the state governors come together. Now we have local government receiving money. Everyone needs to put their heads together and say, how do we redirect our spending into the areas that benefit people, not just the areas that benefit just a couple of politicians and their pockets.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Niekeme, let me just close with you. Basically, what role can the private sector play in filling the void that is left by these international donors, and how can public-private partnership be leveraged? At this time, what should really be brought to the fore to ensure that this does not end us in a very bad light?
Yeah, all hands have to be on deck, and sometimes I get emotional when I feel the gap has not been filled up. That was my point trying to make on the youth participation. Not that we're not doing enough. I mean, we had MSAs, we had the protests, but it must not be seasonal. It's an everyday thing. It's a 24-hour activity, the involvement of young people. Otherwise, I've been an establishment person, so I know how this works. The moment you go to sleep, it returns to business as usual. And by the time it's crisis period, it becomes crisis, and that's different. The private sector has a role to play, but the people have to direct the private sector. They have to tell the private sector what they need. For instance, we have local communities who negotiate with international firms who negotiate for things for the community. But when you go to those meetings, what people are looking for are private monies. They're looking for what they can gauge for themselves. They can things that can get into private pockets. That's where to table things like health insurance and tell companies, okay, you may build roads, or you can take off the health care of 300 people, 1,000 people, maybe 2,000 people. Those are the kind of things you should bring to the table. Okay, an individual comes, even if you want to give him a chieftaincy title, don't give the village money. Can you take care of 150 people under our healthcare program, or can you sponsor 200 people through school? So we need to begin to adjust the things that we demand from individuals, from companies, from everyone who is willing to add help to society. So I think the private sector has a role to play. Government cannot do it alone. The people must also know that we are in an emergency situation, and this country needs the help of everybody. All of us cannot run away. All of us cannot japa. In fact, there's no country that can contain 200 more people at the moment. So we need to fix Nigeria. We need to believe in this country. We must continue to support the President of the Federal Republic, because we are not going to transport leaders from any other planet here. We are still going to develop through our current leaders and the leadership recruitment system that we have currently in the country. So let's continue to support our leaders. And when they do well, let's also boldly say they have done well and applaud such efforts. And when there are gaps, obviously, to be fixed, let's also be very quick to tell our leaders very constructively, politely, without insult, that, look, we actually think these are the alternatives. And I think if we continue to engage, we'll have a better country for all of us.
Right, Aneke Mafimba and Wikina Ebenezer, thank you very much for coming on our program today.
Thank you very much, Sunis.
Thank you. It
was our pleasure.
All right. Yeah, the withdrawal of this international support, like that which we saw from USAID, presents, both challenges and opportunities. It is imperative that we as a nation reevaluate our strategies, embrace self-reliance, and foster collaborations among all sectors to secure a prosperous future for our youths. That's our program for today. But before we go, we're going to be leaving you with our top 5 videos of the week. I'm Sunis Nathaniel, and until next time, remember to stay curious, stay informed, stay engaged, and keep beaming the light where it matters most. May Nigeria continue to rise and flourish. Bye for now.